What's up YouTube, Saf here on SuperSaf TV and welcome to another epic SuperSaf style camera comparison, this time between the Huawei P9 and the Samsung Galaxy S7. In the usual style, we'll be doing both front and rear facing camera tests and we'll be looking at both images as well as video too. Do also look out for the audio icon in the corner of the screen and that will indicate to you which device the audio is coming from. And I'll be switching between these two throughout the video to give you guys a better idea of the differences in audio as well. So we're currently using the front facing cameras on both devices. We are in my car, but we've got plenty of light coming from outdoors and this is the sort of quality difference that you can expect. We are going to be heading outdoors now and doing some rear facing camera tests, and then we'll be going indoors and doing low light tests too. So do hit that thumbs up button and let's get straight to it. So now we're outdoors with both devices. We are filming at 4K with the S7, which is its maximum resolution. The maximum resolution on the Huawei P9 is 1080p. So this does mean that on the S7 we can crop in much further and get lots more detail on this 1080p exported video. Now filming with the rear facing cameras on both here, we're just going to take a bit of a walk to see what the stabilization is like. The digital stabilization has been switched on both devices. So now we're indoors with the Huawei P9, just testing out the autofocus. Seems to be doing a pretty good job. Now same lighting with the S7 and once again super fast. It's just so quick with that dual pixel autofocus and it just focuses in so quickly. Look at that. So that was the video, and before we move on to some images, let's just get the specs out the way so you guys know what we're working with here. For the front facing cameras, the P9 does have a high resolution, but the S7 has a much wider aperture. And for the rear facing cameras, the P9 has a very interesting setup. You've got dual 12 megapixel cameras. Now one is an RGB sensor and the other is a monochrome sensor, and these work together, but you have an f2.2 aperture with no optical image stabilization. The S7 is a no slouch here. You've got a 12 megapixel rear facing single camera, but it does have an f1.7 aperture, which is quite a bit wider, and it also does have optical image stabilization. Now for this example, we are going to be using the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge, which has the same camera as the S7. Now if you like the skin that I've got here on my S7 Edge and want to customize the look of your device, whatever that may be, then you're going to want to look up Dbrand. And thanks to Dbrand for sponsoring this video. I'm going to be leaving a link to them in the description below, so definitely do go ahead and check them out. Now another thing to mention is that all images that you're about to see have been taken on automatic settings. I haven't tweaked anything, just to keep the results as fair as possible to see exactly what we get straight outside the cameras. So we're going to kick off with some selfies because everybody likes to take selfies. Now here you can see that the S7 does have a wider angle of view, so that's going to be useful for your group selfies. But I do like the skin tones a little bit better here on the P9. I think both are doing a good job overall, however. Now let's go in 100%. And here you can see that we can crop in much further. I know the S7 was a little bit wider, but you have 8 megapixels versus 5 megapixels, so the P9 does give you that much more croppability, shall we say, and it's going to give you a little bit more detail because of that. But overall I think both do pretty well in good light. So now let's move on to some low light selfies, and here you can see that the S7 is definitely performing better. You've got a much brighter image. There does look like some processing going on, but just generally speaking you have a much brighter image. Even if you look at the background as well as the foreground, it is definitely much brighter on the S7, and I think the wider aperture is definitely helping here. Now an outdoor image in a good light, I think both are doing a great job here. You can see that the S7 does have a shallower depth of field because of that wider aperture. Now you can fake this on the P9, but once again, as I mentioned, I am taking these straight off camera without any sort of tweaking. I like the colors a little bit better on the P9. I think they are just a tad more natural here. And going in 100%, you can see that once again both are doing a great job. I'd say that the S7 is a tad sharper compared to the P9, but both are doing very well overall. Now an outdoor wide image, once again I think both are performing pretty well here. The S7 seems to have favored the foreground a little bit more. The P9 has also maintained a little bit more detail in the background clouds here. So that's going to come down to your personal preference. I think both are doing very well. Now let's start to test these cameras in low light situations. So this is under room lighting, and here the S7 is definitely brighter, compared to the P9. But let's take the test even further so we can see the clear differences. And here the S7 does look like it's producing a much cleaner image compared to the P9, on which you can see a lot of noise. Let's go in 100%, and this noise is a little bit more obvious here as well on the P9. Now we'll take the low light test one step further, so we'll go outdoors with this, and the S7 once again producing a much brighter image overall. The P9 is producing quite a dark image here. Now I was expecting the lenses to work together to produce a brighter image, but it looks like the single lens of the S7 with the wider aperture as well as the optical image stabilization is really helping the S7 in low light. Now finally, testing out the flashes on both devices, I'd give the edge here to the S7. I think the colors are a little bit more natural. They're a little bit on the yellow side. If you look on the background wall, it's a little bit on the yellow side on the P9. So there we have it, the epic SuperSaf style camera comparison between the Huawei P9 and the Samsung Galaxy S7. Now in conclusion, for the front facing camera, the S7 is going to be giving you a wider image with better low light. However, the P9 is going to give you more detail with those 8 megapixels. For the front facing video, however, I did prefer the S7 overall. You can go back and have a more detailed look, but I think you just had a little bit better dynamic range on the S7 there. In terms of the rear facing cameras, for video quality wise, I think both were really good. The S7 does get the edge. For 4K video recording, you've only got 1080p on the P9. The S7 also has optical image stabilization with that dual pixel autofocus, which was just slightly faster compared to the hybrid autofocus on the P9. Not that the P9 was doing a bad job at all. And also, if you look back at the video when I was filming it without any digital stabilization, there was a lot of shake on the P9. So I definitely recommend switching on that digital stabilization on the P9, which does crop in a little bit, but does produce a much more stable image. And the digital stabilization did do pretty well. Now outdoor images in good light, I think both were very good. You can't really go wrong with either of these. The S7 however still shines in a low light, especially outdoors. You saw the key differences there. You had much less noise. I think this does come down to the wider f1.7 aperture, the larger individual pixel size, as well as the optical image stabilization. Now with the dual camera setup on the P9, I do think it's got a lot of potential, but maybe we need a software update so that those two images can be combined a little bit better together to give us brighter low light images. Now just to be sure, I did switch on night mode to test out the low light capabilities of the Huawei P9, and that just ended up trying to do a 20-second exposure, which obviously did not work out handheld. So from the test that I've done here, it does seem like the S7 does perform much better in low light. And finally, the audio, I think the P9 did actually produce some better audio. I'm going to let you go back and test that out and compare them side by side. But listening back a few times, I did prefer the audio on the P9, and I think it did a great job. That's what I think anyway. What do you think? Do drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. If you want to see lots of images from many different devices, then definitely do go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram. I'm at SuperSaf TV. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then please do hit that thumbs up button for me. It really does help me out. And if you haven't already, then be sure to subscribe. This is the place for the best camera comparisons on YouTube, so you're definitely not going to want to miss out on those. You can also see my previous related video here in the annotations. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf TV, and I'll see you next time.